Now, to get a little further along on how the Wildcat's head is carved, I have a little thing to show you here, and this is the set of gouges that I use. It comes with its own handle and its own set of blades. There's a blade that is a little round and almost flat. That is the one that I put on the handle to do this part of the project. Now what I'm going to do here is start to remove wood from around its eyes. What we had here just now is a little chip of the area around the eye as I was removing the wood here, but that kind of little thing can happen. It can be avoided if you're cautious enough, but there's a way to fix little things like that. I've got a little thing of super glue here. It's of Loctite super glue gel. There's a way you can apply that on to replace to fix little things like that that can happen here and there. When the wood gets accidentally chipped in the wrong place, you can kind of take this tube and apply a little glue among the area where the eye is and put it back in place. So that's how this has come out. You can see that I have removed the wood from around the eyes with the gouge. And the next step, you will need your thumb protector to do this, because it's one where you kind of start to remove the wood around the sides of the face with the knife. If it comes off a little bad like it did here, it's nothing to worry about, because once you do that, you're going to round it off anyway. You're going to round it off at the edges here to kind of make it so that the face kind of has some round curves at the edges. And going to come out so far to look like this. You will also note that where you've applied super glue to any place that might have gotten chipped off accidentally, you might have to give that a little time to dry. Otherwise, it might not dry back on completely and might come off. So, got to be careful about that. There's a step here where you go and start to carve inside the mouth here, and this is what you do to do that. Here, this is how it comes out, and I'd say, and then you start to kind of remove a little area from the whiskers on the chin as well. That starts to make the face a little more 3D. And you also start to kind of go along the top of the head here. There's a place where you have to be careful going along the ears, because you don't want too much to come off when you go about the ears. But here is how that works. You kind of make it to where you want the ears to be carved behind the front of the head to make them look like they have enough slant in them. There is a place up here where the tops of the ears will remain the same. You might be able to maybe make a little angular trim at the top of the ears, but it's best to be careful, because I have learned the hard way plenty of times from that. I ended up chipping off more of the ear than I wanted to. So that could be just one of the places to be the most careful. There's a time when there comes to trim on the backs of the ears to try to make them go towards the front. And when you're doing that, there comes a place where you might be able to make little curves at the top to kind of help it to go over a little bit. I just did that with one ear. Now I'm going to do it with the other ear. And in this situation, probably just chipped off a little too much. You want to make sure your blade is sharp enough, because I tell you, I was kind of in a rush to do this video and don't think I sharpened the blade in time to take care of this. But here's how I'm getting mine to turn out so far. And here is how it should look once you get done with the ears. They should be making an angle towards the front in the back. Try to, at the place at the top of the head, try to kind of smooth down the edges below the eyes, but not so much that you cut off the eyebrows. And here is how it should look once you get that much progress done. One of the next steps will be to make a little more detail among the whiskers here, among the mustache part of the whiskers. That will be just to kind of, you know, shave the edges off the curve, just kind of make it so it's just a little more curved there, and it shall go quite a way. Still be careful again not to do too much, because you know you might mess it up if you do that. And so there may come a time here or there when you might have to end up taking a little bit more off the face around the mustache area, so just be careful what you do here. And this is how it comes out in the front. And I will say around the bottom of the top of the whiskers, you might want to do a little cutting around there, do a little shaving of the area around there. Now this is how it comes out once you get done with the front of the face. There's a little more extra to be done here, I will say, like around here at the bottoms of the whiskers. You need to come along this way. At the bottom of the face, there's a little more shaving of the wood that needs to be done here. My thumb guard's coming off, but gotta keep it on. And so this is how it's going to come out here. I tell you, there's a few things I'm forgetting here, but I mean, I've had somebody request instructions on how this is done, so I was happy to make this video, and now this is pretty much how it should turn out. This is actually when the front of the face is done, not when what I was telling you about a while ago. And then there comes a time you're going to have to start rounding off the back of the Wildcat. Rounding off the back of the head here. That's going to be a little extra work for you, but it's going to be handleable. There's probably going to be a few places in here where you might have to corner out the ears a little bit. On this one, there was some drawing on the back and even some imprint on the wood that has to be carved away. Sometimes there'll be times when you'll kind of have to cut like this, make this kind of cut so that you don't go cut off too much, like depending on the grain of the wood, you might actually do if you try to do it the other way. There comes a time when there's a little bit of this work here to be done. Now, as you can see, this is how it's turned out at the end. You can kind of shave off the back of the bottom of the face like this, the same way you did in the front, only there won't be quite as much detail to work around in the back as there was in the front. But you do need to round it out a little bit back here to kind of make it so it can be neat. And then there comes a place where time when you just about finish the carving part and finally you carve across the top of the back of the top of the head, and finally this is how it comes out. Now there's going to be a time when you're going to have to apply a little sandpaper to this and do some sanding in here, but that will be demonstrated in a later video. As you all are about to see here, this is a different Wildcat head from the one you saw me carving on a while ago. I decided to kind of skip the sanding part for this video because that'll be something that I'll probably be able to show later on, and there's a little more to it than I can explain just yet. But what I want to show now is what we do after it is sanded and how we put it on the stand. Now what I've done here is I have taken a piece of Turkish walnut Wildcat here, one that was already carved, sanded, everything. I took a little piece of apple wood and have drilled holes into it, and as you all will see, I am not the best when it comes to drilling holes. I can never get them straight or leveled out, so when I drill holes, they will come out a little crooked, probably a little more crooked than you would think, but I will say that this is pretty much the way that the project goes, because I mean, what we do is, I would normally use twigs, but what I have today is dowel rods. So I'm taking these two pieces of oak dowel rod, and I take some Loctite super glue gel and put it into the holes and put the little sticks into the holes like this. There is also a little thing you'll need to come to realize, because as I've worked on this part, what you can see is I have already drilled the holes into this. I have already made it so that the sticks are leveled out with the holes, make it so they will go through. Of course, this time around I drilled them all the way through, so there's going to be a certain other thing I'm going to glue on the bottom later, which will pretty much cover for that. But the next step is to put glue into these holes on top of the stump, and once you do that, just slide the sticks in just like this. It should be able to make it so that the head goes all the way into the top of the stand. There's a little thing that's going to be shown later, and that is a tag that goes on the bottoms of my artwork.